going to be a challenge for quite some time as long as we have restrictions on seating capacity inside the restaurants. So it's going to be a combination of continuing to push delivery and takeout in areas where we're not fully open yet, looking at outdoor seating, can that be expanded for the restaurants so that they can add additional seats outdoors to try and get them back to a level of sales where it's actually sustainable to open the restaurant again.
So then discuss the impact of the previous financial crisis on dining and how this COVID-19 crisis is different.
Well, what we found during this crisis was that roughly half of the restaurants we surveyed in the state of New York actually shut down for the time of the pandemic. And we had never seen anything like that before. I would guess the numbers probably in New York City were even higher, where restaurants just weren't even trying to do takeout and deliveries. So to have that much of the industry completely shut down in the state of New York was completely unprecedented here.
And then what about the trickle-down effect of the lockdowns? You obviously have a huge supply chain that includes the food and beverage supply chains as well.
Yeah, we have unfortunately seen some of the suppliers impacted and announcements about them not reopening as well. It's a big industry that impacts so many when you think of all the linen and the glassware and the suppliers of the equipment and everybody who just helps make the restaurants run, from food delivery to alcohol delivery. It's a very large industry.
And I also want to talk about the mindset. So let's explore the changing consumer behaviors now that you have people who've now gotten used to the flow of cooking from home and are also more cautious about handling food or visiting restaurants and eateries. Do you think there could be some sort of permanent implications for the industry?
Well, I did hear what the others were saying, and I certainly understand that consumer behavior is going to be cautious for a while. That's why we think delivery and takeout is going to be a continued important part of the business model as we move forward. So far upstate, where we've seen people open up for outdoor dining, because that is allowed currently in some of the regions upstate in New York, the turnout has been pretty good. People have started to come back and they seem interested in dining out, so we hope that that continues. And we hope that they continue to support their local restaurants as we come out of this.
And you certainly want to see local restaurants getting back and thriving. And we know that sometimes adversity often inspires innovation. So talk about some of the creative ways some of these eateries are trying to navigate this new market and try and also reassure customers.
Well, it's been interesting to see the response. The alcohol to go was a quick response from New York State, that we saw them suddenly allow alcohol to go in a way that we never had before. That's something that we're hoping that we're going to be able to continue to do as restaurants start to slowly reopen, and even for the months ahead, because we aren't going to be at full capacity anytime soon. So that's important to the business model. But we've also seen that there's been a lot of interest in opening up new areas to restaurants for outdoor dining. We've seen people put up tents in a parking lot to allow for tables and chairs to be set out there. Patios have always been fun, and sidewalk cafes, but expanding into streets. Closing down streets is something that a lot of the communities are talking about. So really exploring how to utilize that outdoor space while we do have the nice weather for the summer months.
And we did see that some restaurants had already partly relied on delivery apps before the outbreak. A lot of them now became almost dependent on them as the lockdowns limited options just to delivery and curbside pickup. But the fees can be crippling. How do you see progress on that going forward?
Well, some of the areas have acted on that issue. So New York City actually implemented some restrictions on what the fees could be during the time of the pandemic. So we were grateful to the New York City Council and the mayor for helping the restaurant industry in that way. But there's so much more that can be done on that. I don't think the consumer really understands what a large percentage they're taking out of the restaurant's bill when they order through these apps.
And just quickly, for future restaurateurs, what advice do you have for those trying to launch a new eatery after all this, if it's still an attractive option?
Well, I would definitely say take your time, look at the guidelines, think about what the rules are, reopen right, do it smart, follow the rules, because everybody's watching. Your employees, your guests, everybody's watching right now, and they want to know that a restaurant is a safe and sanitary place to go out, and follow those guidelines. CDC, health department, those are always things that the restaurant industry always complies with, so do it right.